I know video games can be very engaging, but let me tell you, in my experience, none of them compare to a child who is motivated to be homeschooled. If a child wants to be homeschooled, they will follow through. Now, this backs up to family values again. Let's define values. Values, in my book, in my definition, are attributes of the person you want to become. And this is something we've taught our daughter, who's been homeschooled since the first grade. And starting early is very important. We have to ask our children, what kind of person do they want to become, and help them make a schedule to fulfill their values. So perhaps one of the most important concepts we can teach our children is the idea of an opportunity cost. We don't want to terrify our children and tell them that technology is melting their brain or addicting them. That's ridiculous. What we want to do is to tell them that the price of using these technologies or overdoing it is what else you could be doing. Spending time with your friends, helping around the house, all the other things you want to do, that's the price. And by having a civil dialogue with them about how do they truly want to spend their time to live out their values, children that are very young, we had this conversation with my daughter when she was only 6 years old, can start making better decisions on how they want to spend their time. And that gives them back this autonomy to make their own decisions.
I am super excited about the AI era. These kids are playing in the AI pools. I am loving watching them jump up for joy when they find out that they can create things using AI. We've most recently been doing image creation, which has been profound for them. I definitely think AI is a huge tool and a helper, not a hindrance. But I think what we're also finding is in early literacy and numeracy, young children need a immediate feedback from somebody who's engaged with them that can't be replicated, I don't think, in a game. I think there's something to be said about human connection and the role of the learned to the learner.
So the idea of kind of addiction to video games and lots of screen time, certainly this is a concern for families. I think the best spokesperson for this topic is Dr. Peter Gray, Boston College psychology professor who wrote the book Free to Learn and also wrote the foreword to my Unschooled book. And, he makes some really great points. First, he challenges the whole idea that video games are addictive. But beyond that, he says, if we look at examples when children seem to be addicted to video games or screens, it's often children who attend conventional schools and will escape to video games because that's often the place that they have the most autonomy. It's where they're able to control their world. They're able to engage in play. And this is something that they may not be able to do quite well in a standard schooling environment where they're basically told what to do all day and they have every moment of their day scheduled for them. And similarly, Peter Gray would also say that because we have sort of this decline in childhood play over the past several decades, that our society has really sort of prompted this video game escape for a lot of children because, again, it's really their only place to play. We don't welcome children into public spaces like we used to. Children typically are not out roaming the neighborhoods and playing on their own and riding bikes, all around town like we certainly did when I was a child. And so sort of the socially acceptable place for kids to play is with video games. And yet that's also then what parents are saying is frustrating to them. So the answer to that is to, make our culture, our society more welcoming to children and encouraging children to experience free play and unstructured, unsupervised play out in their neighborhoods to kind of create play-based neighborhoods. I feel really fortunate that we've been able to do that in our neighborhood and in a kind of our urban environment. And I'd encourage other families to really make that a priority too, especially if you're concerned about screen time, to just provide those other opportunities.
Yeah, so I think many people lack nuance in how they discuss screen time, and even also the difference between the internet and social media. There are a lot of non-social media sites on the internet. In fact, I'd say most sites for primary school aged kids that I would recommend are not social media. And so, I think it's helpful to bring more nuance to this discussion. So in terms of types of screen time, I always think about, is this relational versus not? So in relational can be you sitting next to your child doing something, or it can be your child talking to a trusted friend or a teacher online, and that can be on a screen. But it's quite different than, I think most people, when they hear screen time, kind of think of a worst case scenario of a kid by themselves just passively watching a movie on their own. And then just kind of continuing, so I mentioned whether it's relational or not as one of the axes around screen time. Another axis is if it's educational or not, if they're learning from it. And I think recreation has its purposes as well, but it's important to think about that distinction. And then a third axis I think about with screen time is how active it is in terms of, is your child creating something? If they are writing a story or creating art.
The key is the digital learning apps, because if my own children are any guide, otherwise they'll just spend all their time playing video games.
There are a couple apps that I think are doing a really great job at this. The first one that comes to mind is Prodigy Game. They've built a math app based on Pokemon, and kids are just begging to ask to play with it. And some schools have even banned it because they think the kids are playing math too much. It's kind of crazy and shows the resistance to technology.
And it's so true. There were not nearly as many tools as there are now. It's so exciting what's happening in the independent learning space. I remember, for example, when Khan Academy was this unknown, amazing tool that homeschoolers loved. But I think for a certain number of time, it was pretty much only homeschoolers using Khan Academy. And watching Khan Academy become what it's become has been really beautiful thing to watch over the last 10, 15 years.
I want apps that are as compelling as Roblox and Minecraft and teach math and science, but I think you're actually alluding to some in the subsequent chit, so that's exciting. Thank you.
I'm excited for you to try some of them out. I will say I think there are a lot more apps like that available for children in early childhood up to grade 8, and there's a real lack of them for children in high school. There's a big need for more adaptive learning apps for that group. For some reason, everyone's building for early childhood.
I think we're finding that the games can be engaging, similar to Roblox or a Minecraft. You know, the tokenomics in there really help to catapult some of the engagement. But I think what we're also finding is in early literacy and numeracy, young children need a immediate feedback from somebody who's engaged with them that can't be replicated, I don't think, in a game. I think there's something to be said about human connection and the role of the learned to the learner.
And a combination is essential. Ideally, there will be nature-based learning, there will be handwriting, there will be adaptive learning apps. Technology is definitely part of our world, and it can be a great way to learn, but we really have to see what works for each individual child, and I don't believe in an all-or-nothing approach.
And I think the most overrated objection to homeschooling is, what about socialization? In my experience, people are over-socialized these days, not under-socialized. There's so many avenues to socialize. And a lot of the misery and depression and suicide comes about because of social games that people are playing. Look at people who are on Instagram or TikTok all the time. They're over-socialized. Are they happier for it? I think socialization leads to groupthink and bullying and just sort of conformity. And, kids these days are so heavily socialized thanks to social media, and they get to go out so much, and they're always doing team sports, team activities, team play. There's just a high degree of socialization. So I don't think that's what's missing. If anything, I think exceptional people are built in solitude. If you look back on any truly exceptional person, they spend too much of their time doing the thing that they were obsessed with, whether it was science and math or reading or just doing push-ups or going out and surfing or, tending to the garden or whatever their obsession was. And a lot of these obsessions are solitary. So I think especially if you want your children to really their exceptional self rather than learn how to play artificial social games. After all, high school is all artificial social games, which don't even really map well to real world social games. Then I think you want them to have more solitude and less socialization.